how do I meet? And then someone else added on, how do I meet and know this is the right person? So essentially, it's the same question asking about how do I know the person I'm dating is the right person? Now, if I can just chip in, and then maybe Dr. Ruth may have a word to add. I want to ask a question also. How do you know you're the right person for someone to marry? You who is asking. Now, that may sound like an idle question, but I think it's very important. Many times we are looking for who is right, and we ourselves are not paying attention if we are the right person to marry. And that's why I ask that question. Do you think you have the merits for another person to desire marrying you? When you ask about the other person, you are essentially trying to get into an area that's outside your ability to investigate, because you cannot investigate any person and be assured that that person is the right person. I mean, you may see a few things here and there, but my experience or our experience is that you never really get to know the person well until you have married them. So rather than focusing on trying to find out if the other person is the right person, it's important to focus on, am I the right person? Am I the kind of person, if let us say you profiled that person, that I want someone who is talkative, I want someone who is sociable, wants to go out all the time and so on. Ask yourself, am I that kind of person? Why do I want, the other question is, why do I want to marry? Because you're not marrying the characteristics of that person, you're marrying a human being. So why do you want to marry? So be careful, because some people want to marry someone who knows how to dance, or someone who loves music, or someone who loves movies, and so on. And those characteristics are changeable, and they may change over time. So it's important for you to answer these questions for yourself. What are those merits that you yourself want to have? And where do you get those merits?
I want to say something about, I think many young people call it emotional support. They're looking for someone who will support them emotionally. And I remember one of my friends telling me that she has turned down a number of people because they don't emotionally support her. And I said, so how is that? She said, well, you see, a person calls you today, and then they take 3 days without calling you or finding out how you are, and say, how can you marry that kind of person? And I said, wow, because if you're looking for that, you may never find that person, because normally people have different ways of responding to you out of marriage and in marriage.
Yeah.
So if you expect them to respond to you as if you are living with them in the house and as if you are their spouse before you even marry, it becomes very tricky. So stop looking for emotional support. Emotional support will come when it is needed. But also in talking about, are you the right person? It's important for you to create that individual who will be who someone can actually marry.
Desirable.
Yeah, in terms of spiritually, where are you? In terms of what is it that you have on the ground? What assets do you have? What have you accumulated? Are you mature enough in your thinking, in the way you are behaving? Some are still, they have outbursts, they get angry over very small things. So all those things, you need to be able to look into them, that if I went to marry a man or a woman, would I be able to take care of them for the next 80 years? That's a question you should be asking. And if you can't, then you are not ready.
Okay? So please do much more self-assessment than
But
assessing
there
others.
should also be the issue of, do I really love this person? We don't want to just go in just because you've seen money, he has a car, he's looking good. But there should be in your heart something that says, wow, something that says, I can love, I would love to be with this individual. This is the kind of person I would love to love. And it takes me to our own story. For me, when I met John, I told myself and I told God eventually that actually this is the kind of person that I would love to marry. It's the kind of person I would love to live with for the rest of my life. So in my heart, it was already there. And, he too was already there. So by the time we came together, we had already agreed in ourselves that we would love to live with each other. So there must be that also, so that you are not being taken like a goat being taken for slaughtering, yeah? Being pulled to be killed. No, that shouldn't be it. And if at all you see any danger signs, maybe the person is very violent, maybe the person is hitting you, maybe the person is so demanding, those are some of the danger signs you need to be looking out for. Maybe the person is not saved and you are saved, and you say, oh, I will save him along the way. So those are the signs that you should be looking out for, that if the person is not saved, that person is not the right person for you. If a person knows the Lord, there are also some things you need to be looking out for. Yeah.
I think if I may just add on, it's you need to be very careful about what you're looking for, both in yourself as in the other person. Sometimes they're just some things that a person does, their actions. Now, those may change. Even preferences may change. But some even focus on culture. I want someone from my tribe. Now, that is a very common one, and it may not be very bad, but I can tell you that culture does not decide the success of a marriage. The truth of the matter is, any person, even from your own tribe, will be different, will certainly be different. That one I can assure you. So looking at culture, I was not looking, although we ended up being from the same tribe, I was not actually looking, that was not my first thing that I was looking for. So be careful about such things, okay? And that's why we are talking about character, because character is very, very important. Your own character first before you start talking about the character of the other person. Okay, we need to move on. And there are many of these questions concerning relationships. The next one says, my question borders around finding a good partner, but I think we have already answered that while I'm in university. And the question is very simple. Do you encourage this? Do you encourage this?
Well, sometimes there comes a rush, especially as we get into second year, third year, you are finishing. And so you are thinking, oh, I need to get someone before I finish, before I run off, before I end. Otherwise, the world becomes very difficult. So sometimes there is that rush of, I want to get someone before I leave university. And sometimes they put you into that corner. So if you do get one, that is fine. We found each other when I was in my second year. That's when I met John.
I was doing my PhD.
Yes. So I found him, he found me, but we didn't get married until I graduated.
Yeah.
So it's not a bad thing to find someone. We don't want to say we encourage it or we discourage it, because each one, you find a partner in different ways, not always the same.
Yeah.
But at age 23, 24, 25, 26, 27 is when you are searching. These days, people are getting married a little later. Some people are getting married in their 30s, in their 40s. So it's just important for you to know there is no big rush. This is something that needs to be looked into. You have to think through it before you get a partner. and think about it.
So what we are saying is, whether it is in the university or later, for me, I'd already finished my first degree. She was still at university. You are of marriageable age. That's really, it comes down to that. And then other things will follow. So I think some of the other questions we have already answered, some of the other things we have already addressed, haven't we? Okay, let's go to the third question. And as we can imagine, most of the questions have to do with relationships. So someone says, concerning the issue of marriage, how can one rebuild trust with a partner who has once cheated on you, or maybe does one just move on living in the marriage without trust? Wow. In other words, the person has cheated. Now, of course, we are going to answer this question assuming that when you talk about marriage, you are talking about a legal and formal Christian union between husband and wife. Because these days, the word partner means a lot of things, a lot of things. So if there is no legal commitment, no formal commitment, I'm afraid that's not even marriage. So we cannot start discussing that. Okay? But of course, we emphasize that trust is very important in any relationship. Marriage will not survive if there is no trust between the two of you. So if you are indeed married, then we commend you for keeping your trust. Okay? But first of all, let's say the loss of faithfulness of a spouse does not give license to you to throw off your own faithfulness.
It's like you can't revenge and say, because you are cheating, let me also cheat. Or you are doing this, let me also do that. Marriage requires faithfulness till the end. That's what you vow when you come into this marriage. That I will be with you. I will not have any other person until death parts us. So anything that comes in the middle of this, it means you are breaking the vow. And once a vow is broken, it equals to breaking of trust, which you have just said. So now you are asking, if this trust is gone, is it possible to rebuild it? I mean, the answer is yes, it is possible. This is the part of the work that I do as a counselor, and I deal with many, many people who have gone through infidelity, and eventually you build that trust. But we must add that rebuilding trust is a very, very difficult thing. It's one of the most difficult tasks in the world. Let me just give you an example. If I know that my husband has been cheating on me, he's been maybe on his phone, maybe in the night talking to someone, and maybe meeting them somewhere. So every time he goes out, my head is saying, where has he gone? What is he doing? Who is he with? Every time I see him on his phone and he doesn't want me to hear, or he doesn't want me to see who he's talking to, I'm like, maybe again it has happened. So it breeds suspicion. It breeds a lot of suspicion. And so rebuilding requires that that person is going to speak the truth and be cautious about what he's doing every single day. Rebuild that trust.
But we believe in a God of hope. We believe in a God of hope. So the other person has broken trust. Keep trust. Keep your own trust.
Keep your own trust.
That's very, very important for you.
And seek help. It's important in such situations. Don't just say, okay, I don't want anybody to know about this. We are going to shush it. We're going to keep quiet. Talk to someone that this has happened in our marriage, because anything that is kept as a secret in marriage is doom.
And the fact that she's, like she said, trust is the most difficult thing to restore because it takes a consistent track record. Therefore, for you to try and rebuild it alone can be a daunting task. So that's why we encourage you, seek a counselor. Seek out someone who can support you, can help you.
You can't manage it alone.
You
have to be able to discuss it together maybe with another person, so that you see what are the tasks that we have to do to rebuild this again.
Maybe just a little caution, and we do this normally when we are talking to couples. There are some people who may be the wrong counselors for you. For example, if you go to parents, you go to relatives, and so on, you have got to be extremely careful, because your loss of trust will be transferred to them. And before you know it, it gets much worse. It's always better to have someone independent who can support you, who can help you, so that the trust is restored, and in the hope that we have in God that even the marriage is restored. Okay, we go to the next one. This one says, I would like to find out if it is right for a boyfriend or husband to stop the girlfriend or wife from doing things that she has always done growing up. For example, wearing makeup, putting on a pair of trousers. Those are very interesting questions. Now, I think let me just say right at the outset that when you enter a relationship, okay, the boyfriend or girlfriend or wife is not your project to turn into your preferences.
To change.
Okay, your job is not to try and you say, I have this project to stop my wife from putting on trousers. And you may be thinking that about your wife. Your wife is also thinking, my project is to stop this man from putting on torn shirts or whatever. And then you end up with that kind of mess. Okay? Like she said earlier, every relationship rests on love and mutual respect. Those are very, very critical for you. So don't make the other person a project. If you like the person, things change.
It's like you're taking them. Supposing, let me give this kind of illustration. Supposing you are buying an old car from me. The old car has issues, but I tell you, you are going to buy this car as is. You know the way they say you are taking it as is. So you get this car, maybe one of the tires is shorter than the other. So the same thing happens when you are getting into a relationship. They come as is. Some of them wear a lot of makeup. Some of them wear short dresses. Some of them wear trousers. Some of them don't know how to sneeze. Some of them eat with their mouth open. There are so many things that you may not like.
Yeah.
Some have habits, maybe they are picking their nose, maybe they don't like to bathe. I'm telling you, so many things.
Actually, the mistake that we often make is to think it's the other person who has something different.
Right.
Remember, if the other person also sat down to look at you and mention the wrong things, wrong in inverted commas, because they are different, different from hers or different from his, you will be very surprised. In any relationship, you are going to be different. And we are saying this, that you avoid the frustration. Changing a person is not your work. It's God's work, not yours. If you start thinking you're going to change a person, you're going to do this, and you get the person that you get, what you see is what you get. Like she said, as is, that's how you get them. So don't waste your time frustrating yourself as if this is a project. I'm now going to stop this woman or this man. Yeah.
I want to add, however, that there's communication between the two of you.
Yeah.
And you could mention something, in a loving way. Not saying don't come back to me next time with makeup because I don't like it. But you could say, there's something I want to say. Sometimes I think the makeup is a bit too much. And so she gets to know the things you like and the things you don't like. And she or he may actually change or may not, may become actually very rebellious and say, hey, you don't like it. I will put it on even tomorrow. And buys even more trousers. So at times we have that rebelliousness in our human lives. So that's why we say, don't come into a relationship to change the person.
Yeah. I think also understand, if she's different, it's because you're different. That is the bottom line. If she's different, it's because you are different from her or different from him. Okay, so don't frustrate yourself unnecessarily.
Just enjoy each
Yeah.
other's company
Yeah.
and love what they love. You'll be surprised. You'll start loving the makeup. You start loving trousers. I like that.
Yeah, and after all, I mean, you actually are attracted to that person as a person. When you love someone, you are not attracted because the person is wearing trousers or the person is. Those are the superficial things. You're really attracted to that person as a person.
Love them for who they are,
Exactly.
not for what they do.
Exactly. So we go to the next one.
Number 5.
My concern is on lecturers, members of staff that would maybe ask for relationship. How does one decline this without making them uncomfortable or cause them to hate you? Okay? Now, this is outright unethical. It is actually unethical and a matter for administration. It's not really for us. It's unethical. It's a matter for administration. Normally, what institutions do is to have what is called a whistleblower policy. And the whistleblower policy then provides for ways of reporting confidentially, so that even you who is whistleblowing are protected. And that's always very important. Protected. Okay? So definitely for a lecturer to start harassing a student is not acceptable at all and would not support it. So please look at the whistleblower policy, and you may have other policies, all of them that stipulate the ethical guidelines. Staff also should have staff handbook, student handbook, and things like that, so that it is very clear in a situation like that, what does a student do? Okay?
Now, just for the sake of your safety, it's very important to know how to deal with inappropriate behavior in any situation. It may not be a lecturer, it may not be, but it may be someone on the street, maybe someone you meet in a lift and he touches you inappropriately. It's, there are some people who respond and they're like, oh, it's like, oh, that's like you're allowing the other person. So next day they'll do the same thing.
Yeah.
So right from day one, when the person is making any kind of what do they call it? Any kind of a movement toward you in an inappropriate manner, you need to be able to say, no, you cannot do that. I will not allow it. And then report.
Yeah. And I think that is important because there are some, and you'll forgive me, but I think this is true, mostly the ladies who then take advantage of lecturers. Okay? That also is wrong. You should never do that. The way you dress,
the way you sit,
yeah,
you come in front, you are seated with your legs wide open, and then your dress is you are half dressed, maybe in a very light dress that shows everything. You are sitting right in front. You are calling for trouble. So I'm not saying that the appropriateness then can be allowed, but we also have to take caution about what we do.
Yeah.
How do you speak to your lecturer after the lessons? I remember going one time, I think it was in Makerere University. I went into an office, and this lecturer had invited like 3 girls to help move some files, some things from the floor in his office. And wow, I watched the scene and I was like, no wonder these girls get into trouble. First of all, they were wearing very short dresses. 2, they were lifting things and all the things that were in the back were showing. The lecturer is standing right there and they're just them in the room. So you have to be very, very careful.
Yeah.
that if they are making inappropriate moves towards you, check yourself. What am I doing wrong? And it doesn't necessarily mean that you're always doing something wrong, but get that out of the way so that you are not the one who is in the wrong at any one time. So the whistleblower policy then comes very useful, that you can tell someone without revealing who you are.
Yeah.
And then they'll be able to work on that.
Okay. So we now, those were the questions, 5 of them. In fact, there were 6, although we combined 2, all of them on relationships. So now, how can I build my confidence as a student, especially when it comes to public speaking? Now, this is a big topic, and maybe at some point we will be able to present something, but we can give a few pointers, okay? The first thing is, do you really want to be a public speaker? Why? Some people want to be public speakers because they are comparing themselves with other people. That's not a noble reason, okay? One of the most important things for you to be a public speaker is to be yourself. I am a preacher, and I remember before I got into a lot of preaching, because now I preach in many places, there were preachers. I remember one was called Bishop Festo Chivengere that I listened to and greatly admired. And indeed, many of us as young people wanted even to imitate his movements, his intonation and all that. No, if you want to be a public speaker, God created you uniquely. God made only one you, okay? Only one you. And I can never be Bishop Fester. I can never be any other person. So that is the very first thing when it comes to public speaking. Secondly, get it in your mind that nervousness is normal. Nervousness is normal. So don't ever feel that when you're nervous, all of a sudden, even those people that you see seem to be, getting on very well, they also have some nervousness within. And for me, in preaching, I was encouraged by a word that told me that if you don't feel nervous at all, then it means you are so confident that you yourself will speak well, rather than relying on God. So nervousness is normal. Do not be discouraged by that. Instead, prepare your message well. Make sure it's done very well. Practice if you need to. I remember reading about Billy Graham, who was a global international evangelist. He practiced preaching because he lived on a farm, to the animals, his father's farm. So practice, okay? Then watch the flow of your talk. Make sure that it makes sense. For example, do you have a nice preamble, a little introduction? What about the main body? And so on and so forth until you come to the conclusion. All these become necessary. You can never grow in your public speaking without practice. So if you don't start, you will never actually be a public speaker. It's just that simple, okay? And even the confidence in speaking comes more by repetition. Then you grow to say, okay, I can speak. But every time you go up there, you're going still to struggle. There are a lot of things that are said about public speaking. So I don't know, darling, do you have something to say about that? But yeah.
I'll just give my own experiences. I don't think I was a public speaker. I was more of just speak to a few people here and there. But today somebody called me and was asking me, I think from the newspaper, what did you learn from your father? I think they were putting something together for Father's Day. And I said, what I remember about my dad is that it was very hard for you to forget what he had preached about or what he had talked about.
Her father was a bishop, by the way. She hasn't said that, but her father was a bishop.
Yes, and so his preaching was very illustrative. So she asked me, "Can you give me one illustration?" He said, "If he was talking about the light being the light. Then he would bring a tadoba. I don't know if you know tadoba,
Yeah.
but it's like a little lamp that's like
More
a
or
candle.
less like a candle. Yeah.
Yeah. And he would have it and light it and then blow it out and do all those things that by the time you leave the church, there's no way you can forget that sermon. So I picked that up. I'm a teacher by profession. I'm a counselor by profession. So it's like in my classes, I always find things that people can hook on, not to forget. Same thing in my counseling room. I find things, or I draw things so that people cannot forget. Yeah, so that for me is helpful. That does somebody understand what I'm trying to say? So I'll not be engrossed in my text.
Yeah.
I'll be able to see what is the facial expression. Am
Yeah.
I getting through to the people that are out there?
I think the point that she's making is very important, because what we are saying is that public speaking is not about you who is speaking, it's about the people. Are you clear? You must know your audience very well. If you are speaking to little children, you cannot speak like you're speaking to university students. If you are speaking to university students, you cannot speak like you are speaking to the country people. Okay? So each of those brings its own challenges. And mind you, it's important for you to make it interesting for them, knowing it's the audience. You know, you may think you're interesting, but you're interesting to yourself. Okay? What is important is to study your audience and understand what kind of audience is this? What will they take? What will they understand? What is it that will make a lot of sense? You spice it with the stories, you spice it with humor, you know, because you know the audience and you use the right language for them. Yeah? If it is university students, let us say if all of you are PhD students, then I can use any word freely, even if it is complicated. But will I do that if it is undergraduate students? No. Or if it is a community, will I do that? No. All those are things. I think, in my opinion, this would be a topic on its own. And I think we can consider putting it in. Public speaking is a big, big topic.
It also helps if you have a kind of framework for your talk. What am I starting with? What am I ending with? How is it flowing? We do a lot of presentations together, and so we sit and plan how we are going, who is going to start and what they'll be saying. So in your head, you have a kind of flow of what it will look like. So have it down. You may not write everything. Some people are very good at writing out everything and reading it. But if you are not good at reading to the audience without looking at your notes, then I would advise you not to have a written speech, but have your points out. So you know that point 1 is this and you know it in your head. Point 2 is this and you know it in your head.
Yeah, because we've seen some people reading and my goodness, they send you to sleep. So be careful. So if you are not that, and you see, if you're going to read, you better get your punctuation right. You better get your pronunciation right. You better get your eye contact right, and so forth. So there are many things that go into that, and you need to be sure that you're doing the right thing. These days, there is PowerPoint, which enhances everything. So that instead of just listening, people are able also to see. Okay, this time we didn't make PowerPoint, but we use PowerPoint for that very purpose. Okay, we go to the next question. Number 7. This one is saying, my question is on anger management. How can one really work on this? What advice or tips or habits can one do, to manage this? Yeah.
Okay, I'll begin with the causes of anger. We get angry because of many things. It's a kind of biological chemical component, because in our body we have what we call the fight or flight. When somebody does something to us, we either want to fight or we want to run away, and that is a common response. but that brings arouses or makes one more prone to anger and arouses the anger. Sometimes there's a lot of injustice that has been given to us, sometimes frustration, sometimes we are threatened, sometimes we are hurt. So, and then we've also come from many different cultures that teach us how to handle anger. There are some parents who don't allow you to be angry. When you are angry, say, why are you angry? Stop being angry. I'm going to beat you because you are angry. So you learn to push down the anger. And eventually when it comes out, it is a very big, like it bursts out. So many people are not taught how to actually deal with their anger. And the effects are many. There's depression. Sometimes you see all these road rage, people wanting to kick each other and kill each other on the road. It leads to sickness. There's a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of violence that can come from anger. So basically, it really interferes with life. So we must be able to respond to anger. We must be, first of all, able to recognize, be aware that I'm angry. I tell people that when I'm angry, I get a pain in my arm. Because I've been teaching so much around emotions in counseling, I learned to listen to my body. So you should be able to learn to listen to your own body. When you're angry, what do you feel? How do you do it? So that we can respond. There are different ways of responding. One, you can hold back. It is easy, but it's less effective because eventually you blow up. But it helps when you hold back because you evaluate yourself and say, I am angry. What is the next action I'm going to do? Some people turn the anger inward and they become sick because of turning that anger inward. Some people then act out. They are aggressive. They become so aggressive. They are hitting one another. So it's important for you to manage the anger. One, you can do relaxation. Yeah, I won't go through teaching you how, but relaxation techniques of breathing in and out and taking time out, all that is relaxation. Then it's important to understand why you are angry so that you can talk to yourself. And then thirdly, you have to teach yourself how to control that anger. So you may slow down. For example, if I'm going to hit someone, I will say, let me hold on. Let me not hit that person. Let me first think about it. So by the time you come round again, the beating will have gone.
And it's the same thing also with the words that, when you're angry, it's very easy to throw out hurtful words. And it's like you're hitting back.
Yeah.
Learn to just shut up. Shut up, shut up. That one you have control over.
Yeah.
Shut up. Don't speak
And the
until you
Bible
have an
actually
opportunity to
says in
process.
Psalm 37, verse 8, it says, refrain from anger. So it's important to stop yourself getting into situations that make you angry. So avoid. If you know that I'm going to meet someone who really, really makes me angry, avoid going there. Avoid doing it. If you feel that there's going to be a lot of jam at that time, I'm not going to drive in that moment. Because Proverbs 14:29 also says, whoever is slow to anger has great understanding, but he who has a hasty temper exalts folly. So be slow to anger. We pick that from God himself, that God was also slow, is always slow to anger. If he was quick to anger, he would have destroyed us all. But it's one of the topics we also handle under the things we teach. So it will also come up if you need more information.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to the next one because time is not waiting for us. The next one, how can I improve on my time management? Sometimes I stick to my time plan, but often find myself in other people's timelines, doing things that were not even on my program.
Can you read it again?
In other words, I think it is how can I improve on my time management? Because I think, the issue is sticking to your time plan because you find yourself in other people's plans. Now, we should say that, first of all, your attitude toward time needs to be right. You have no time. Your time is God's time, okay, for which you will give account. So remember that all the time. Remind yourself of that all the time. Secondly, just to understand that it is a discipline. Time management is a discipline. And we are not saying that any of us is going to be perfect, okay, in time management. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't try. Okay? If you don't plan at all, you have actually already decided to fail. So it's very important for you to understand discipline. And discipline means you plan your activities, you give them a time frame, you choose some things to ignore and some things to focus. Sometimes you may find that what comes in, so we are not saying that time management excludes other people. There are times, if my wife, for example, is hurting and she needs my attention, even if I'm speaking to you, I will have to go and attend to her. So we are not saying that time management all of a sudden means I forget every other person. Choose what to ignore, choose what to focus. And you must be in charge of your own time. Let not other people, if it is just things, oh, let's go out and have a drink, or let's go out and watch a movie, let's go out, and you just go. Okay? And I think when we've talked about time, we have also said, I don't know if it was time or something else, we have also said that even when you plan your time, don't fill the 24 hours with activity. Leisure is also very important for your time.
And rest.
Leisure and rest. Please understand.
Yeah. So many times people struggle because when they have a to-do list, which we encourage you to have, when they have a to-do list, they leave out things like leisure and watching television and having time with their family and eating. So if you are having a to-do list, you should also include all those things in there so that you know that at 3 o'clock, I will have some rest for 1 hour. I'll do some exercise. I'll talk to my friends. I'll go in another room and speak to someone else. I will go and have a good time. Saturday evening, I'll go out with my friends. So timetable it so that you know that that is the day you do something like that.
Yeah. And be watchful. If something is what you would rather do, check. Because if I would rather do this, often it means that it is something that you enjoy, maybe gives you pleasure. So ask yourself then the other question, is it really necessary? I would rather do it because it is fun, but is it necessary at this time? I would rather sleep. Okay, sleep is good, but is it at the right time that you're sleeping? So
and sometimes it helps. This is what, when I was doing my PhD, I had to determine the number of hours that I was going to spend with school. So sometimes it's good to say, in every day, I'm going to spend such amount of time maybe doing assignments, maybe this is time for classes, and then this is time for, so that you know that I need 5 hours of school, 5 hours of study. Yeah. So that you determine that much earlier than when you start. So you start at the end of the day, you're like, what have I accomplished? And I knew if I don't do 5.5 hours of school, anything to do with school, because I was working at the same time, I would be in trouble. So if I missed the 5 hours, I would have to add that to the next day. That would make it 6 hours and 7 hours. So I didn't want to keep doing that. So I had to make sure that I use my time well during that time.
In fact, that's a very good illustration of what I was saying. I would rather do this. If I were to ask all the students here, how many of you would rather spend 10 hours in books? And you'll find no. Even 1 hour, sometimes it's difficult. Okay? So that means that I would rather do will draw you away if you have not planned your time well. Now, something else that I think is important also to keep in mind, if you have an activity like today, I have meetings in the next 2 days, okay? And I have to leave very early in the morning. So I've got to ask myself, what can I do today so that I leave on time? You don't start doing everything. So you say, okay, I'll brush my shoes then. I'll do. There are some things you have to do on that day.
The night before.
But if there are things you can do the night before, it helps.
Take out your dress,
Yes.
your trousers, iron them.
Yeah.
Put them out. You can't comb your hair the night before. So there are some things you can't do, but there are some things you can definitely do before you go, the night before.
Yeah, and do not feel also to be accountable to other people. In fact, what the university does is a kind of accountability. Someone teaches you, gives you a course outline, tells you your coursework must be handed in by such and such a date. What are they trying to do? They are trying to hold you accountable for your time so that you can manage your time appropriately. So plan your time.
Use your phone, use a diary, use a to-do list, so that you have, some people like to see, for example, if I have a whole page that shows me every hour and what I have planned to do. So at 2 o'clock, I'll do this. At 3 o'clock, I'm going. At 6, everything is planned here. And you put it either somewhere visible, maybe on your laptop somewhere, maybe on a sticky note, maybe put it so that you can always see it. If not, you put it on your phone, you can always access it. It will give you some alarms when you need to. So all those things are helpful in time management. An alarm before you do something, for you to wake up, for you to remember, all those are good for time.
Okay, then the last question here, I would like to find out how one can keep up the zeal or enthusiasm on whatever they are doing. For instance, in school, how can one maintain the zeal or energy to perform well throughout the semester? Okay, it's about enthusiasm. Okay, now, first of all, not all things require your enthusiasm. Okay, so you need to be careful about this. Some may indicate you are in the wrong activity. You are in the wrong activity. And you'll find it hard to cultivate enthusiasm for something which is, for example, not your talent. It's not your talent, especially if it is something indispensable. You don't have to do it. And it's not your talent, a task that's not your talent. Why are you trying to become enthusiastic about something that is so unlike you? Unless it is essential. If it's not essential, you don't have to cultivate enthusiasm. Now, but of course, you're talking about studies now. When it comes to studies, unfortunately, you don't have much of a choice with that. Know yourself, your interests, what you need to do, Okay? So
it's important to also find what is it that motivates you.
Yeah.
For example, you don't really like studying, like maybe your friend. And so it would be good to link up with that kind of person, because they will always be pulling you along. That will now be your motivator. So you tell them, please, when you are getting up at 3 a.m. to read, wake me up. So you know that somebody is enthusiastic ahead of you and you are going to stick by them. So they help you and say, wake up now. Don't go to sleep. Put your feet in the water. I don't know if you still do those things, but we did a lot of those things.
Or take coffee. Some people take coffee.
Take coffee. Do something. They even if they are not in the same room, they will call you and wake you up and say, read now. We are now in school together, even though you are on the other side. So motivation becomes one of the most important things to cultivate.
Yeah.
Whether you are a staff member, sometimes you may not really like teaching, but you have to find some kind of motivation. What is it that makes you do what you have to do?
Yeah. And then do you have a purpose why you are doing what you're doing? Studying, for example, you are studying so that you may get a degree. Are you focused on that? Are you really saying, look, and maybe you can even go further. and you say, I do not just want a degree, I want this GPA.
Yeah.
Whether you are in first year or whatever, this is the GPA I'm aiming at. And I'm always happy to find students who have that level of commitment. I want a 4.5 GPA minimum. And so they are monitoring, am I getting the right mark on each subject?
That is like excellence.
Mm.
Excellence in everything you do. Meaning, now we talk about academic particularly. If they tell you to do some work and give it in at a certain time, you will keep that. If they tell you to research, you will do that. So doing the right thing always makes you an excellent person. I happen to be an A person, an A
Student?
student in most of the things that I've done in my life. And so for my PhD, I got an excellence award. And people were asking me, how? I said, all my life, I've always wanted to do everything in the best way that I can. I put in my all. I think that for me would be the answer here, that to keep enthusiasm, zeal, you just have to put your best foot forward.
Yeah.
And never slacken in saying, oh, now I'm pulling back because I don't have A, B, C, D. Whether you have or you don't have, you put your best foot forward so that you can tell yourself that I did the best I could do.
And I think in whatever you do, please never aim at mediocrity.
Yeah.
Always aim at excellence. Everything that you do. Even if it is a manual activity, make sure you do it to the very best. Because when you do it to the very best, you can also look back and it motivates you to do more. So please don't aim
And I think
at mediocre
for us,
activities.
both of us, I think this is what has happened, that we try not to do mediocre. If I have a report, I will do it. If I have to sign something, I will do it there and then. If I have to present something, I'll make sure that the presentation is the best that I could do. I spend hours. I'm not paid for all those hours I do. And some people don't even give you anything at all. But you put in the best. It's not because I'm getting money, but because that is me. I have to be excellent in everything I do. In your dressing, you are excellent. In your speech, you are excellent. In whatever. So you become an excellent person.
And you can also read around the subject, research around the subject, be in friendships, and I think she has touched on it, be in friendships that we would call life-giving. Because if you spend time with people who just drag you back, I'm afraid your enthusiasm is going to leak out of you. Okay? So, finally, because time is up, never give up. Never give up. Okay? God created you with your gifting. Understand you are not junk. Whatever you're doing, do it well. God bless you. Tawera, we hand back to you.
Well, thank you so much. I wished we could listen on and on because I was integrating everything and just thinking, wow, these have been beautiful questions, and they've brought us all around, the circles of life. And I felt bad that we didn't have a number of students, but I'm glad for those that managed to join, because these were really, life lessons that everybody is going through. And thank you so much, our facilitators, for making time, especially for this session, because in the other session, sometimes people will not have, time to ask. And I'm glad that the few that managed to send in their questions have been very valid. And we've also learned a number of things from the questions that we had. Now, right before we go, I'm looking to see, Mr. Mtiawa, are you able to come in, maybe give us a few words, considering that this is our last session for the semester, and maybe just to thank everyone that has endeavored to be with us.
Yes, good evening, members, and Toera, thank you so much for being a wonderful moderator for us. I think on behalf of my seniors, I don't see Professor Michael Kaoya, neither the Deputy Vice Chancellor. I'd like to thank so much the two doctors, Reverend Canons, Dr. Senyonyi and Dr. Ruth. Senyonyi, you've done us a good job, and I hope many of our students have gained a lot. And we shall look forward. I hope you not get tired of us. We are most likely to come back to you after the long holiday we are about to take. However, before I bid you good night, I would like to say that a few things, I joined a bit late. I apologize. But one of the points, which is very interesting, was marriage and how to go about it, and some marriage relationships that sometimes turn sour. We've gone through this. We've been married with my wife for over 40 years. With now 44 years, she tells me here. She's just here. But as we walked, we used to have conventions, meetings, fellowships about marriages. But one thing I learned from the brethren, they told us that in marriage, there is no formula. You can't do it the way how John and Ruth do it, or Stevie and Melis do it. But there is only one formula to follow, and that formula is Jesus Christ himself. That has kept us going for the last 44 years. Two, a very interesting point about a lecturer having a relationship with a student. For sure, I appreciated it. It is just unethical. It is not acts. It's like someone, collecting, gifts in the church and then scratching into his or her pockets. That is unethical, Similarly, this, God forbid, it doesn't happen to us in ECU. Another interesting point which I'd like to end with is about public speaking. One of the topics I teach my students is communication. But one thing I learned about public speaking is, I'm not a good public speaker, but according to the literature I've read, it says if you are going to speak, there are all those things mentioned by Dr. Senyonyi and Ruth. But one cardinal thing is that make sure that you know your stuff. Make sure you know what you're going to speak about. Be confident about it. Of course, have a framework, organize yourself, prepare yourself well, but the subject matter that you are going to present to the listeners is very important. And of course, John, being an experienced person, said, make sure you know your audience. Make sure you know what group of people you are speaking to, and try to simplify. As Ruth was saying, I had an opportunity to live very close to her late father, the late Bishop Misairi Kauma. But his messages were so practical, so simple, and yet they had very deep meaning. So knowing your stuff before you present is very important. I would like to stop here and thank everybody, especially our students. This program is really geared towards our students. And the more students we get, the more we benefit, I'm sure, out of it. Because some of these young people are struggling with many ideas. The world is open for them. They give them different types of stuff, which may not be useful for their life. So thank you so much. And my wife would like to say a good evening too. She's just here. Maris, please.
Yes.
Speak up.
Good evening, our facilitators. We are very grateful.
Evening, Auntie Mary's.
We are very grateful for what we have heard this evening, and I'm sure it will help us a lot. God bless you as you serve.
So, can we say prayer? Dear loving Father, I want to thank you for such a beautiful time we've had together with our two great facilitators with a lot of knowledge and information and experiences. So thank you, Lord, and we pray that what we've heard from them, what we've learned from them, may become more practical and meaningful to our daily living. Thank you so much. And as we part, Lord, we pray for your protection in the night and continue to give us your blessings. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mtiaba, and so happy to see Mom. Greetings to her. And when I saw her, I don't know, my heart just melted, and it reminded me of the time you kept me in your home. So thank you so much. Yeah, I really
God bless you.
appreciate
Towera all the way from Zambia.
Yes. So
You've done a good job.
we bless God for you, and for sure your union, you said 44 years, and I said, wow, we are truly, we have elders to look up to, and you're such an inspiration as well. Thank you so much for being there and also for joining us for these sessions. So we bless God for you. And once again, thank you so much to our facilitators. We look forward to seeing you again next semester. And thank you to everyone that has been able to join this session today. We wish you God's blessings. Till then, have a good night.